My name is Mike Shepard. I'm a producer. I want to get to know the artists in my new community. This is 1,000 Meals with 1,000 Artists.
My name is Somya Goomer. I would say, maybe like a mixed bag.
My conversation this week with Somya was really interesting for a lot of reasons. One, as you just heard, she describes herself as a mixed bag, and that is extremely accurate. She's a singer. She does vocal lessons. She writes her own music, produces music videos. She's getting into designing clothing. She works with other artists on projects that use audio and visual and tech elements and creating things through dance and theater. She's a performer as well. She's acting in several things. She's done several things in terms of that before, worked on film projects, etc. So she is really a mixed bag in terms of her art development. She's now out of school and I think looking for a lot of different ways that she can express herself. And so far, she's doing a great job of finding them and developing a lot of interesting skills along the way. This is the first conversation that you're hearing where I've only had one other conversation with this artist before sitting down for our meal. Everyone else that we've heard so far, I've known a little bit. Some of them I've known for a long time, and others that I've at least known for a year or several months, talked to, had conversations with. But Somya was really the first one where this is really our second time that we've talked. So this is really new for me and new for 1,000 Meals. The first time where I'm really trying to get to know someone new who I didn't know before, trying to get to know her process, try to understand where she comes from in creating her art. It was a really lovely conversation. We were at the Fairmont Chateau Laurier. They have a little restaurant right kind of inside the hotel called Zoe's. Again, I don't know. It's one of those. And it was just kind of the perfect spot for both of us. We were commenting on it when we were chatting that it had this really nice laid back atmosphere. It was really, really nice, but the chairs were kind of really comfortable. You could just kind of sit there and talk. There wasn't really this rushed feeling. We were having lunch, so it wasn't as busy as I'm sure they get in the evening. So it was really nice to sit down in that atmosphere and chat a little bit. So this conversation really revolves around a lot of different topics. We talk about collaboration. We talk about all of the great work that Somya is doing, some of her past in creating projects and what it's going to look for to the future. I'm really excited to see where she goes as an artist and what kind of comes next. And I hope you do enjoy this conversation as we had delicious avocado sandwiches at the Fairmont Chateau Laurier in downtown Ottawa. So really a mixed bag.
Yeah.
You do a little bit of everything,
Mm-hmm.
from theater, music, stand-up comedy, the technical side of theater, technical side of music, all these things.
Yeah.
So if you had to define it in like a handful of words, like two or three words, if you had to say like my job title or whatever is, what would you say? Well, like just performer?
Oh,
is it more complex than that?
Yeah.
I mean, mixed bag is probably pretty
That's like
clear.
The best way for me to put it, because I have a hard time with that. Like, it's funny because I had a careers appointment like just before this online, and I was talking about how like I have one resume for everything, and the more like I add to it, it just keeps getting longer and longer. And when I work on my cover letter for certain jobs too, it's like I like take my old cover letter and then like my experience keeps building up, so then I just keep adding to it, and I'm like, I need help with like bringing this down because I feel like they need to know all this stuff, especially for media and like arts sort of jobs where like all those things sort of go like hand in hand.
Is that why? Like, is that why you dive into all these things? Like, you're doing it because you believe like it's going to help you in the future?
I think also because I love it, and I just think that right now is like the time to kind of like do everything. Like, I think I kind of overwork myself for sure, but at the same time, it's just like if I have the time, like I will make the time for X, Y, and Z. When it comes to acting, like I just took on a acting role with Youth Infringement Festival, and that's volunteer.
Yeah.
And with the time that I'm putting into event planning and building my music brand and releasing stuff with that, it's like already extra work, but I'm trying not to look at it that way. And it's more just like, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to learn about acting and like more about acting. And it's going to be a great opportunity. And if I have the time to do it, like, I mean, I wish I could do everything.
It kind of sounds like you are doing everything. Like, are there things, honestly, that you feel you're not doing right now? Because it sounds to me like you're doing a lot.
It's like I want to have, I think, time in the week to be able to do everything, but it doesn't always end up getting distributed that way. Like this past week, I worked on more of like, well, I teach singing lessons as well. So
yes, you were mentioning that you've also like on top of this, you teach singing lessons, which just blows my mind. Because not that okay, I guess everyone is a little different, and you do see artists, and I've met with people who have multiple interests, but I don't know yet if I've met someone who currently has all of those interests and is sticking with it, because sometimes as you get older, you drop certain things away and focus. You seem to be adding more things onto your plate. So do you see a world where you drop away and focus yourself, or are you always going to do this?
I think for a while, I feel like I'm probably going to try and do all of it because I for some reason can't imagine a world where I'm not like immersing myself in the arts completely, and especially as a musician and like a music artist, like it's like I I think of all of those things like, oh, like what am I gonna do for like my music videos, and like um I I just want, especially for like music videos are kind of awesome because like you're acting, you could dance in music videos, it's media, so like the post editing really like interests me, and same with audio and music. It's like the production and the sound engineering that goes into music is just so interesting and cool to me. It's like you can get really creative with that, and then same with post production when it comes to video. So like uh, me doing all of these things, I think kind of comes back to that, like my brand as a musician and as an artist, the outfits that I wear, to learning different like dance routines, and like, which is something I want to get more into. Like I think like in my head I think of that bigger picture, and the more I immerse myself in the arts, like the more I just like love it. I'm like, I don't want to stop, it's like I can't pick one thing.
Right.
It's like there's one thing that I know that I'm really good at and comes like, it's like the most intuitive to me, which is the music and the songwriting.
Sure.
And then to make that even better and make it even cooler is by like adding all these other things with it, like with the songwriting and the music.
Right, and that being still at the heart of it, the music being there. So you're okay. And in terms of music, then, songwriter and singer, is that more your area? Like you write songs, you sing them, that type of thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Exactly. And then you also.
And then I produce them.
Then you produce it, and then you also on the side act.
Yeah.
Create events. Design clothing? Is that what I heard you do that too?
Yeah, I'm like getting into that. So I just took a bunch of old clothes from my closet where I'm like, I've kept these all in my closet for so long, and I've wanted to do something with them, like turn them into something different, because you grow out of clothes, like they don't fit you anymore, like there's something about them that you don't like, they don't look good on you anymore. And like I hate the idea of just like throwing those clothes away or like donating them, because you don't always necessarily know what like happens to them. And then same thing with buying new clothes. It's like I don't want to just keep buying new clothes and then I'm spending money and then like I'm gonna just go through that same process over and over again. So I've always had ideas of like, oh, it would be cool if I had an outfit like this and I could do some patchwork with some of these fabrics that I really like and create something like different with them, like a really big sweater, a really big jacket with all the denim and the plaid that I have, like jeans that I don't care about anymore, I don't want to wear anymore. I can like turn them into something cool. And then it like makes me feel more unique as well and makes me feel like, oh, I didn't just put these clothes to waste, like this was all a part of me before, but now it feels even more me, and it feels like I'm like expressing myself even more through, like being a little bit different and making something different.
No, and that's
Yeah.
that's really cool. And I mean, at the end of the day, most arts are some form of expression, right? Like, I define, like, and what's art for me has always been a story told through an act of creation, but a story can still be expression.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's just part of storytelling. Like, that's what drives me into the arts is storytelling and learning different stories and their different backgrounds. So I find, clothing's a good example.
Yeah.
You designing your own clothing and wearing it is still telling a story, even though you're expressing something, which tells someone something. You're trying to communicate something to someone else through an act of creation. Therefore, it's art. So everything you're describing, again, I don't know many people who have all these multiple interests and are sticking to it and trying to kind of make it work.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you that that's probably not going to do you any harm because it's you're learning all these multiple skills that are helpful in choosing where to go. And you bring up a really good example of music production, music videos, using multimedia.
Yeah.
You can make the same argument for musical theater.
Yeah.
Music, theater, design elements, even theater itself. You're designing sets, costumes, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
So there's multidisciplinary in all of it. So it makes sense.
And that's why I find like production to be like the best thing in the world, like to me, because it just incorporates all of that, and the more uniqueness and the more skills that you can like use in a production, the better it makes it, the more unique it makes it, the more unique of a story I think can be told through knowing a little bit of like costume design, through knowing a bit of set design and like creating that concept. So like it's like I start with writing a song, then I produce that song, which gives it like, it's like the writing and all that music, it gives it a style. And then when I think of the visual aspects, I'm like, okay, how do I want this to look? What kind of story, like, what was I trying to get at here? Like, what sort of story was I, like, trying to tell? And then I can get in touch with, like, a director to help me out with that. And we create, like, a shot list together of how we want it to look. When we film that and stuff, see how that, like, comes out on camera. It's such a great way to get creative then, like, with what different outfits, like, you get to wear, and then what dance you make out of that, and what like acting you do. It's like all these aspects just enhance the storytelling. I mean, storytelling, that's what really like moves people.
Like, give me just some examples of what you've done already. I know some of your thoughts for the future because we've had one conversation other than this one, and it was about that. So, but I don't, in terms of your background, like if you had to sort of describe projects you've done that have been really interesting to you, what have you done so far, or are you still at the beginning process of being able to realize your dream?
Yeah, for music videos, I'm definitely in the beginning process.
Yeah.
But recently, I was just working on like a creative music video idea I had with a friend, and this wasn't for one of my songs, but we had been talking, and I was like, okay, I really just want to make something. Like, I just want to make a music video. I don't have a song that's entirely ready for it yet, but let's just make something. And so that's something, it's, we're done filming it, and it's going to be, now it's just in the process of being edited and all that. The song that I'm about to release, it's finally done being like mixed and mastered. So
It's one of yours? Like you wrote it? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm in the process of just like I'm gonna create the shot list for it and talk to the director that I'm talking to right now. So yeah, I would say I'm in the beginning stages for that, and like with the amount of work I'm putting on myself, I think is sort of slowing down the process, but I don't mind it because I know that it's going to make something really cool. Like with the outfit that I'm currently creating, it's like I'm working on a dress that I had that I'm cutting up to make like look a little bit different.
Oh, okay.
And I may either incorporate that in the music video or just in like a future performance. But yeah, like so far what I've done that's like that are projects that have been like done is I've had 2 singles released on all streaming platforms. For that, I worked with one of my really good friends, Emma Orhan, who does graphic design, and she and I helped me. I kind of had a concept for what I wanted the single cover to look like.
Yeah.
And she like helped me sort of bring that to life. And did the same with one of my other singles that I put out. So that gave me the experience of working with other like creators and to collaborate with them to make some of my ideas and like projects come to life. Because I am slowly starting to realize that like I don't have every single skill in the world and I can't do everything on my own.
Yeah.
I think that's where the magic of like collaboration also comes, where you know you can make something really cool and interesting with another artist, and I think that's what I look forward to in the future with future projects is just working with more and more artists on bigger projects.
Almost everyone I've spoken to has brought up collaboration or getting to know people or networking as kind of a barrier of how I don't know how to like find people who think the same thing or like what have you. But I'm also then seeing it sounds like you already know people and are starting that process. So has collaboration been difficult for you? Is that easy, or like is meeting people in the arts like come naturally? Like how does that kind of work for you?
So like I think when you go to networking events or you even just go to events where there's people there to just enjoy the event, there's people there who are artists who are looking for other artists. So everyone has like a different goal in mind and like different skill set, and you have to find people who I think are like really passionate about it. Like there's some people that I've reached out to, sometimes they don't follow through with plans, or like maybe they have different goals in mind for themselves, or you know, maybe they think that, oh, I didn't want to collaborate as much as I thought I would. So then it's like, okay, then they're like off the list of people that I would collaborate with, you know?
That's
like,
so funny because what you're saying, I'm like, yeah, I've been there. Like I've gone through that same thing. Especially because I think for some people, they think in their mind like, oh, this would be really good. What a cool idea. But then they do start going into it and they kind of see how hard it is or how much work it is, and they kind of back off. Not that I'm not saying that those individuals are necessarily lazy, but I just don't think they think through how difficult it is. It's so easy to say something, but then when you get into a collaborative atmosphere, it's like, oh, this can be tough. Like this, there's a lot of compromise, there's a lot of extra work put into it.
Not everyone can oversee like the whole process of the project or the collaboration that they might get into, which is understandable. And so like, because I have like a strong desire to collaborate with artists who have very different skills and are working in like different mediums, like I will often be the one to like push a little bit or like check in on them, like, hey, what's up? Like, did you still want to work on this? And do a little bit of extra work, because really in my mind I'm like, I have a goal, like I want to work on something with you, and like that's why I'm reaching out and doing this in the first place. And it's also a great way to connect. We are working on something together, and we're working on something together to create something that we both love doing this kind of stuff. With the networking events or the people that you meet, you realize that there are people who are more into it and people who just maybe have other goals in mind in life. And so I think that there's no harm in like reaching out to anyone and everyone, because you will find those people who will want to work with you, and The people who don't, then you don't even have to worry about them anymore. And maybe they'll reach back out to you in the future. Like,
The worst thing that can happen is you get ghosted by someone.
Yeah.
But yes, maybe it's just not a good time for them right now. That doesn't mean later. Yeah, I like that. That's it's a very healthy attitude towards it. Hearing you talk and other artists, I can understand why there's almost a protectiveness over the art that you create, because it speaks to you. It's your passion. It's your story. It's your expression. And sometimes you work on a project and you have it envisioned in your head in one way, and that's the way you want it. Like, you want to see it through that way. I just know some of the best projects I've worked on were one way in my head. Then I started working on them. They were collaborative. They were some of the toughest projects that I've ever worked on, but were some of the best that I've ever worked on, because you compromise, and it may not be what you had envisioned in your head, but the minute you throw other people into it, I find it just grows stronger and stronger, because you have other influences. And so long as you're working towards that shared goal of what you want to accomplish, I think the compromise can often benefit a project.
You really have to let go of, like, no, it needs to look like this. It needs to come out this way. Because, like, it's not. Like, it's never, ever going to.
I don't know if you've heard of the sort of saying when you're writing.
Yeah.
I think it's something that they do for novels and stuff. Like, novelists used to talk about this all the time. When you're writing, the minute you go through edits, find your favorite thing and cut it.
Yeah.
And I always looked at it as like, why would you do that? But then going through a project being like, oh, it's because you know, again, so many different things are happening, but it makes things so much easier. If you can let go of your favorite thing, then you can let go of anything. But also, if you cut your favorite thing and you look at it, then it's like, well, was I just hanging on to that? Did it actually really benefit this thing?
Yeah.
Because now it's gone and it's still functioning.
Yeah.
So it's harsh and it's difficult. But I do find that's an interesting thing. Is if you're struggling editing something, find your favorite thing and get rid of it immediately, and then see how that feels.
Wow, No, I like that, because at first I heard you say that and I was just like I thought about like my cover letter and I thought about my resume and I'm just like, oh my god. But it's true, because then you get rid of it and you realize, like, if I had never put that there in the first place, but I have noticed a difference here. Like,
exactly.
You know?
Would you notice it now that it's gone? Was it your favorite thing for another reason?
Yeah.
Does it benefit the project? Does not? I mean, to me, it's just an exercise. I don't 100%. There's a lot of old sayings I don't 100% agree with, but I think it's an interesting process. Having now doing in my life so much, like, for lack of a better word, editing, when collaborating with projects, when editing podcasts, when editing grants, when editing anything, it always makes it easier to be like, okay, starting my editing process, I don't want to lose anything. Find your favorite thing and just tear it apart.
Yeah.
And then go through it and see what happens. And if it gets back in there, well, then you know it was important.
Yeah.
Right. So talk to me a little bit about your creative process. Now, there's a million things here. So I know it's hard to kind of pick an area, but if you had to in general, when you're approaching any creative project, talk a little bit about what you go through. Like, I'd be really fascinated to hear what your process is like, being somebody who dives into so many different areas. And I guess a follow-up question to that is, when you dive into a project, are you always looking to incorporate other art forms just because you have that interest and experience?
I think so. Like, I think, like, that's what, like, really sparks it for me. Even with the event that I'm planning, it's like, that's the lens that I look through. So if I'm, working on anything where there's not too much arts involved into it, like even like video editing. So like I've been in the world of like audio and video, like doing like contracting work for other people, and if it's like kind of boring, like I'm immediately just like, I don't care about it anymore. And like, then if I don't care about it anymore, my audio skills don't matter, my video skills don't matter, because it's just, it's not
and you mean
inspiring.
if the project's boring?
Yeah.
That you're working, okay.
Yeah.
So you're working on a project and it's boring.
Yeah.
You immediately are disconnected. Yeah.
Exactly. Like if it's like I'm editing like a Zoom class of some sort, and it's just like a person talking. Like that's like I don't know what's it called, like NPC work for me. Like if you've ever heard the term NPC,
Like, no, isn't that for a gaming term?
yeah, like non-playing
Playing
character. Like
yeah,
my
yeah.
mind's just on like autopilot. Like I'm just making edits, and like things like that are like good practice for the actual skill, like
Sure.
the editing skill. But like, yeah, like for a project to really spark my interest and for me to be really involved in it, like it has to involve a lot of creativity and a lot of artistic components. There has to be a story there. Like there has to be some kind of storytelling involved with those components. Otherwise, it's like I think it's really hard for me to like be engaged because I have that kind of a brain too, where like I'm always thinking of something artistic all the time. Like songwriting, like that comes so intuitively to me. And it's this like it can be this random like super like all over the place. It's a creative thing to do. So like if I'm in a setting where like there's not a lot of that like I guess artistic aspect involved, like we're not talking about that artistic aspect. It's like I really have to like work harder to listen and like be engaged. And I think I've learned that too about myself, where I'm like I don't want to be in environments anymore where like this stuff isn't happening, because I don't think I bring anything to the table. Like truly, unless it's like again like I can bring something artistic or creative to the table because I have that brain.
So you've already determined at a young age that you don't want to work on projects unless that part of your brain sparks.
I think
That's
so.
that's quite intuitive, actually.
Yeah.
I didn't learn that lesson.
Yeah.
I don't know if I still have learned that lesson. But that's
Yeah.
okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It sounds very familiar, but okay, so is it just something you feel? Like, how do you know? How do you know when you're working on a project if it's sparking for you? Is it just this feeling that comes to you?
Yeah, like even with everything that I described, like I think I maybe have that like ADHD brain or OCD brain of like fashion, music, like dance, performing arts, like colors and like saturation and like seeing all these like artsy things and conceptualizing things in my brain like all the time. Like
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons as to why I chose this restaurant today is because it's like beautiful. Like
Right.
it
right.
like
you
looks,
went to the aesthetic.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it looks amazing and it's stimulating in so many ways. Like it's like classy, it's not too loud, so I can like hear you when we're talking.
It's actually perfect for this.
Yeah.
Like it's like as you look, like it's nice but casual.
Yeah.
It has this like the chairs are comfortable. You have this sort of comfortable feeling. You're not like having to sit up at this like specific spot. You can kind of relax.
Yeah.
And then it really works.
It really does. So like if like I'm in a setting where like say there's enough of those things in my brain that aren't like being stimulated or like sparked,
Sure.
then like if it's like one or two things, it's like okay, like obviously I can compromise or I can like deal with that, but like if I'm not like kind of being stimulated in that artistic way, or like it's not a very creative kind of environment, I'm not surrounded by people who are either like in my age range, or like if it's just like like when I'm like contracting, for example, I'm in a lot of environments where I'm the youngest person there. I'm like the only person of color, and then it's all like middle-aged white men.
Yep.
And like and then I feel in that environment too, like it's like they all know the tech really well, and like I've had like a little bit of a background in tech and media, but like I don't care about it like as much as I care about like what you can create with that.
Right. Okay.
Like
interesting.
And so environments like that for me are like I suddenly feel like I'm not like contributing a lot, or like my brain is on autopilot. I suddenly need to know all this other information
Yeah.
about tech that they do, and like
Yeah.
I need to like contribute, and then I'm like, oh, like I haven't had enough education in this, but I did. I just like, you know, like I had a different perspective on it. It's like you can utilize all of these tools to create some really cool things in media and in the arts. And that's just how like my brain works. So, yeah, like I think through being in so many different kinds of environments and like social settings, I figured out that like I like working with very different people, like in a
Right.
group of like, this person has this skill, this person has this set of skills. They're so different, but now we're all collaborating to like create something, and we're probably going to create something really cool because we all have very different backgrounds.
Right.
So working on the Ottawa Youth Film Festival, I think excites me, and I think it's going to turn out really cool because we are doing it for the youth who are in the arts and who are into creativity and film. Film is storytelling. Like
Yeah.
they're gonna create some films. We're gonna have some performances performing a storytelling. Everyone's gathering together. There's gonna be collaboration, right? Like opportunity for collaboration. That's gonna spark. So that's an environment that interests me. But yeah, like if I guess if it's not artistic or creative, the group of people I'm working with isn't like diverse.
Right.
Like I think all those things really matter.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. That makes total sense. Everyone is so different, and the more that I've learned about, you know, what drives us, the more that I see that some people are driven by they want a family. Some people are driven by they want a career. Some people are driven by I want enough money to travel anywhere I want. Like everyone has these things. If we were Sims, it would be our aspirations,
Yeah.
right? And the more I see that, I think, but there are still elements that we can all relate to. And one of those is you want to feel useful, like you're contributing, like you're being part of it, like your skills are being utilized. I actually don't think that that is something that others can't at least relate to, even if it's in a different aspect of their life. Like at least they can relate to, yeah, you want to feel that. You want to feel like you're making an impact in some way.
I even in that environment that I was in at Encore and like other social environments that I've been in were like I can't necessarily like relate to like details in their life, but I'll make the effort to talk to them, get to know them, ask them questions, and then you realize that like there's so many aspects of your lives that are the same in like some ways, like how you just talked about like the people who does the person who does traveling with their traveling buddies and how that relates to like your fulfillment of collaboration and stuff. It's like like you realize everyone is actually the same, but we all just live very differently.
They're creating art in different ways.
Yeah.
Like instead of doing the act of creating art, well, you're getting your creativity out in some other realm.
Yeah.
And some people at their jobs manage and run events or do something, and their creativity can flow through there. I mean, I've worked even, you know, aside from the Tim Hortons job, like I've worked other jobs like before that where you have elements with that's outside of work that they do that you clear. Oh, you're getting your creative juices out by doing blank, whatever that is. So I think that, I think you're right. I think as much as I think there are like what 7 billion people on Earth. I honestly think there are 7 billion different ways to do things. Like that's how unique each of us are. But in what connects us is that drive to express, be creative, develop new things, create and express and be who you are and show who you are and be valued and all. I think those connect us in that way.
I agree with that. I think like the communication is just key to everything. Like to learn how to like communicate with people and not be like, oh, I'm so different from them, I'm not gonna talk to them, or I'm not gonna engage with them or whatever. It's like you can always like find a way to connect with someone on something.
I really like what you said there, where you said communication is the key, but then you qualified it and you went learning how to communicate
well, like learning how to communicate with each other,
Yeah.
learning that, like, because there are ineffective communications tools.
Mhm.
There are ways to have a dialogue and it's ineffective.
Mhm.
But learning how to communicate with someone,
Yeah.
I think that's a key
Yeah.
skill in anything. So you've already, like, obviously I know what you're working on, but you've already mentioned some of the things that you're planning. Like, in the next couple of years, like, what do you think it looks like for you? What goals do you want to accomplish? And because, hey, there are people listening, it's an opportunity.
Mhm.
Where should people, like, look out for more? Like,
Mhm.
what should they be, keeping their eyes open for?
Mhm. My song that I'm releasing in
Do you have a release date yet?
not a release date yet, and it's because I have to finish all the content for it, like
Coming soon, then.
coming soon.
But
yeah.
you'll send the info to me, and I can put it out on Soul One
Yeah.
stuff for sure.
Awesome.
Send it, like, I'll share it and stuff. And
Yeah.
people can find it.
That's probably the biggest thing, and with the event that Porter and I want to put on, creativity in there. So we're gonna start working on some cool soundscapes for it, and I'm gonna start recording an album / EP,
Oh,
which I'm
very
really
cool.
excited about. Yeah,
And
people can look forward to that in the future. They can look forward to the Youth Infringement Festival, which I will be acting in. Lots of artistic content to come from me for sure.
1,000 Meals with 1,000 Artists is a project of Soul One Arts Inc. Produced and edited by me, Mike Shepard. Original music by Savannah Shea. Thank you to this week's artists and the local restaurants who host us. For more on 1,000 Meals with 1,000 Artists and Soul One, please visit soulonearts.ca. If you're an artist, feel free to reach out to us on our website and connect for your own meal. Thank you for listening.